All right, so what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we've got another very special guest on. So he is a coach to entrepreneurs and executives, and he's also trained some very famous Hollywood stars, people such as Robert Downey Jr., Mr. Ted Ryce. Ted, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Oliver. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Anytime, man. We were speaking before about kind of connecting through Twitter, and man, that's great, isn't it? How we've just kind of seen each other's content, and I thought, man, Ted needs to come on my podcast. He speaks a lot of sense, and you're here today, man.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, if you're not using social media to further yourself, to expand your network, to better yourself, you're really missing out, because it's just a huge opportunity. You're in the UK, I'm in Florianopolis, Brazil, and then boom, here we
Yeah,
are
crazy,
making
man.
things happen.
Yeah, you're making me very jealous right now. You're in Brazil and I'm in the UK, but we'll let that go. Awesome, man. So, Ted, if I didn't cover it there, do you just want to give a bit of an overview of yourself and kind of how you got here?
Yeah, so you mentioned some things. I'm kind of known in Miami for having worked with celebrities. You mentioned Robert Downey Jr. I worked with Ricky Martin, um, uh, Richard Branson, and other people, right? And when people hear that, they think, "Oh, well, you're some guy who's got it all just made and all figured out." Maybe you're how to like you're probably the captain of the football team. You look really in shape. You've got great genes, et cetera, et cetera. The people, come up with these stories about when we see another person having some type of success. But the truth is, I've had a really tough time in life, and had a lot of tragedies. Don't know if you want to go there or not, but been through a lot of things. Just lost my last remaining family member, my dad, last October. And it's been quite a journey to get to this point. And how I got into fitness was after a family tragedy in 1999. I ended up not knowing what to do with my life after this tragedy happened. I dropped out of school, and just to be straight and tell you, my little brother was kidnapped and murdered. And after that, I just didn't know what to do with my life. I wanted to become a neuroscientist, and I was going to school for that. I thought there was something so amazing about the brain, how the brain chemistry relates to our behavior, and that was my trajectory. But after my brother's murder, I dropped out of school, didn't know what to do with myself, got really unhealthy, because after something like that happens, not only does it affect you psychologically, but causes stress hormones to go up, causes you to lose your faith in humanity, causes you to have an existential crisis. And what pulled me out of it in part was I had always been into health and fitness, even though I was a party guy. I smoked a lot of marijuana in high school, did a lot of drugs, right? Unfortunately. And that was just, where I was at that time. And I had lost, even though I was the party guy, I still worked out. And after that thing happened with my brother, I lost that. I stopped exercising. And part of my journey to healing was getting my health back. And by the time I was 22, I figured out, oh, not only can I get my health back, but I can have a job doing it. It's kind of an interesting story how it happened. But long story short, I found these personal trainers, and they were getting paid $75 an hour, which was a lot of money to me at the time, for showing up in a tank top and getting people in shape. I was like, I need to do that. And by the time I was 22 years old, I was working in the top gym in Miami Beach at the Eden Rock Resort. Now it's Equinox, but back then it was the Eden Rock Resort. That's where I ended up meeting a lot of the celebrities. And yeah, that's how I got into this. And I've been in the business 23 years, and I couldn't be more excited about being in it, even though it's been quite a couple decades.
That's incredible, man. I mean, that's a crazy story there. And I guess, one of the big things I think that fitness does for everybody is it can help heal the trauma to a degree, right? And some of the bad stuff that happens, it kind of fuels a lot of the negative emotions that have come from terrible things that have happened in life. And my question is, what caused you to actually make that leap from, when you were feeling awful about after your brother's death to actually making a shift into fitness and committing to your health? Because you said that you were partying and then you gave it all up. When was the change for you?
Yeah, and I guess I misspoke because I didn't give it up, right?
Right, for sure.
I gave it up later, but at that time I was still partying. I was smoking marijuana every day. If I could find it, I would smoke it. But the change began when really I just spent a couple years not feeling good. And I was 19 when my brother was kidnapped and murdered. I was really starting to do well for the first time in school. I'd always performed poorly in school, and yeah, I just wanted to get back to feeling good. I felt so bad, and I tried doing more drugs. That just made me feel worse. And I was broke, had no money, had no plan for life, and so I hit rock. Well, I people say they hit rock bottom, but what happens is you start to realize, no, there's another level I can sink to if I'm not careful here. And so I turned it around. And there's a longer story about how that happened, but I had support from friends. I had support from my sister. My parents were really off doing their own thing. I didn't really have any support from them, but I had a really good friend who I'm still in touch with today, and my sister helped me. So that was the beginning of the change. Now I went through, you said that I gave up partying. I did eventually, but when I was a personal trainer in Miami Beach, not only was I training celebrities, but I was training club owners and restaurant owners. So it was VIP 4 or 5 nights a week, champagne with strawberries in it. And yeah, just a total party lifestyle. And the thing that got me out of that, even though I'll still enjoy drink or maybe a little THC here and there, but it just, you start to realize this isn't healthy for me. And what I mean by that is a little bit is okay, but I was overdoing it. And then I overdid it when I transitioned into fitness, which a lot of people do. You're like drugs and, drinking and yeah, oh no, this is unhealthy. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give that stuff up. I ended up getting into Brazilian jiu-jitsu and started working out hard. Ended up kind of trashing my joints in the process because I was like, no, this is healthy for me. Except I would come back, my neck would be aching, my shoulders. So I went down that road, and eventually, and something that you said, some of the things that you say on Twitter, like we help our clients not just with their bodies and the right program and the right nutrition, but we also help them psychologically to get clear, to become more emotionally healthy. And that's something that I've really grown to appreciate over the years.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I can resonate with you on the fact that, the party scene and fitness, you can do it, but it's just not very sustainable. I mean, when I was, in my early 20s at university, yeah, I'd be out 3, 4 nights a week, out at the clubs, partying, student nights, and exactly the same as when I'd gone on holiday, right? I've been to Ibiza, I've done all of that kind of stuff. And it's wild, man. I mean, I'm definitely one of those people as well. I go from 0 to 100, right? I can't do moderation, and it's one of the things I'm trying to master. But I find that with a lot of people that are very driven and also very successful, they have this 0 to 100 mentality. And it's even with the clients that I work with, they're either 100% on their diet, crushing the gym 6 days a week, or they're in complete fuck it mode and they're going downhill, they're super stressed. And it's just kind of like the obsessive nature of personality for successful people. I don't know if that's something you've recognized as well.
Oh yeah. Not only do I follow, like I fit into that model for sure. Most of the people that I work with are like that. And I'll tell you something. I mean, it's it's a strength and a weakness, and I think people like that, they don't realize um, it's partly a strength. It's what allowed them to achieve such great success. But what got you here isn't going to get you there. And
Yeah.
so that's when it comes like, okay, well, how do I become more balanced? How do I moderate myself better? And a lot of that has to do with deeper work, which I think is super important. What we focus on in my coaching, along with if people need it, along with the body transformation stuff, because really, you and I both know it's easy. Okay, here's the program. Here's track your macros. Go do it. It's easy. But a lot of things come up. Oh man, I had a client recently. He was like, "Oh man, 2 weeks went by and I didn't lose any weight." And I was letting him kind of work through some things on his own. And I said, "Well," it brought up all these ideas. No, I should give up. Now he's lost weight and gained it back many times, and he wanted to give up. He was in that fuck it mode. And then I showed him in a matter of days, he was down like 3 pounds, right? In a matter of a few days. I was like, well, what did you learn from that experience? You were stuck for 2 weeks. We made one minor tweak. You were down 3 pounds. What did you learn? He's like, oh, I internalized this stuff too much, when it's not about me, it's about what I'm doing. And if I can change what I'm doing, I can change the results. But I tend to take it personally when I see the number on the scale. So that's been part of the self-sabotage for him.
Yeah, that's a really good story because a lot of people find it hard to detach the results from their own identity, right? And that's a big thing that you kind of realize. They beat themselves up after following the process for 2 weeks and not losing weight. But if they detach themselves from that and just said, hang on a minute, let me just trust the process and stay on that, let's leave my emotions aside, they'll get the results. And the next couple of days, they'll drop that extra couple of pounds. But that's why I think an outsider perspective makes such a big difference on something like that, because a lot of people are in their heads with things like that. And especially when it comes to weight loss, it's very personal. People have very limiting beliefs, thinking that, oh, I'm always like this, or it's always going to be like this, or my genetics are causing me to be like this. I'll never get leaner. But that's not always the case. I definitely don't think that's true.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever the case. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I'm no doctor. I'm no geneticist, right?
For
But
sure.
yeah, the thing is people have been online looking for solutions, or before the whole online thing, been marketed to by infomercials, and they've heard all these things about, oh, it's your genes. By the way, obesity, you probably know, it's highly genetic. If you look at, okay, here are obese people, let's look at their genomes. There are a lot of genes that are implicated in obesity, but here's the thing: genes only matter when it comes to the type of, you can't take the genes out of the environment. It's the nature, not nature or nurture, it's nature via nurture, right?
Yeah.
So our environment is what causes genes to get turned on or to turn off. So anyway, the point is this: people have all these limiting beliefs. They say things they don't really understand. Like you and I both know, a 250-pound person who's 6 feet tall, sorry, or 183 centimeters or whatever, trying to do my metric conversion for you, for all the metric people. So a 250-pound person actually has a higher resting metabolism than a person at the same height who weighs 200 pounds. But what do people believe? I have a slow metabolism, and that's why I'm so big. Another thing that you and I have both talked about on Twitter is the carb thing. It's just crazy. It's not, do carbs make you fat? If you're eating too many calories, and too many calories are coming from carbs,
Then yes.
but people believe they got to cut out. I've got a client recently who said, you know what you helped me with? Because I don't, I'm sure you do something similar, but we don't focus on, oh no, that's a carb, stay away from the carb. We focus on, okay, how does this food help you manage your hunger?
Yeah.
And for example, potatoes, which a lot of people love, including myself included, can be great
Yeah,
for
fantastic.
managing hunger. And if you look at what is popular to talk about on social media, that's why I love talking to coaches, because we get it. But there's a lot of influencers who will say things like, don't eat potatoes. Potatoes are just sugar. They're going to make you fat. And then you and I know, like, no, it's not about carbs or sugar or any of those things. If you eat watermelon or potatoes or whatever you're into, and it helps you with your hunger, that's way more important, right? If it's a whole food and helps you with the hunger, it's way more important than like the scientific classification and all the nerdy, detailed talk about, whether things are, acellular carbohydrate or, all that stuff. It's like, does it help you with your hunger? Because that's what drives fat gain, right? If we're
Exactly.
hungry, we eat. If we're not hungry, we don't eat. It's so simple.
Yeah, 100%. And a good example of that is, people on the keto diet, right? That are not in a calorie deficit. And it's kind of like, don't worry about ketosis, right? Don't worry about your avocado on fucking toast. Worry about how many calories you're eating, okay, and how you can balance that throughout the day. That's sustainable, because managing hunger and also being able to perform in the gym and at work are probably the most important things, right? Like, you don't need to worry about all this scientific spiel. It needs to be practical, right? And it needs to be actionable for your lifestyle. I've got one client he's a busy COO, and at 3 p.m. he eats a tablespoon of peanut butter because that hits with his hunger, it sorts him out, and he can then be productive throughout the rest of the day. Now, the science spiel will tell you that that's not good. However, he's losing weight, he's at his lowest weight he's ever been, and it works for him, right? And this is the thing. Every single person is going to be different in that realm of health and fitness. And bio-individuality is what matters, right? There's no one size fits all approach to health, nutrition, or how you go about your fitness.
Yeah, that's right. This is coach talk right now. And I would say to anyone listening, start listening to coaches over influencers. And you don't have to buy into what I'm saying. I do care. I want the best for you who's listening, but just give it a try. Just
Yeah.
start listening to coaches like Oliver, like me, like some of the other great coaches out there, and just start seeing the differences, because influencers, they sell books or programs, and they say things that, like you said, Oliver, the scientific spiel, it sounds so sexy. And it's like, yeah, that's what's really like, I need to optimize this and that. But it's really that practical thing, like your client who the tablespoon of peanut butter. I mean, when I hear that, I'm like, oh, that's not working for me, but it doesn't matter what works for me
Yeah.
or not when it comes to his results. The fact is he's getting results. It works for him. And that's what I would say to you if you're listening right now. The benefit of coaches and listening to coaches is that we're more nuanced. We don't have the luxury of being so married, so dogmatic about our approach, because you and I, Oliver, we get paid based on the results that we get for people. And I know you just came out with a book, and I'm sure it's amazing, but you're ultimately a coach.
Yeah.
And so we need to get results for our clients. We're very driven. So if like back in the day, when I was a personal trainer, I didn't really understand what got my clients results. I would train them hard. Some clients would change, some wouldn't. I started realizing it was nutrition, but I didn't really understand. So I tried to shift everyone over to organic food and listening to all the things the gurus were saying at the time. And now, since I coach people on body transformation, I've had to figure out, okay, what works? How do we apply it to people? What makes it practical? So hopefully that's a little bit of a shift for anyone who's listening and
Yeah.
confused.
Yeah, for sure, man. Some excellent points there. And I think you touched on a good point. It's about using the tools that help you. And I know you tweeted this morning a really great tweet about intermittent fasting, right? And, basically using that, as a tool, because again, this is one of the things that people marry themselves to. They say, oh, I'm intermittent fasting, I'm training in the morning, I can't eat, what should I do? And, again, look at this with nuance. It's actually like, okay, you trained in the morning, to actually take the example, I trained in the morning. When I don't train in the morning, then I intermittent fast because I'm sat at a desk. There's not much energy demands on my body, right? I don't need to eat breakfast then. However, this morning I needed to eat because I was doing a heavy workout and I wanted to have something before and have something after. So that's an example of how you use intermittent fasting as a tool to aid your life, right? Don't buy into the cult. Don't think you should do it every single day. Don't be married to it. Don't get upset when you don't do it. Look at it as, is it benefiting my life? Is it helping me right now? And if it is, great, use it. You know what I mean? It's one of those things.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I would tell you, anyone who preaches something um, very dogmatic, like, hey, intermittent fast every day. And just to your point, what I tweeted was, listen, sometimes I do it like you, Oliver, sometimes I don't do it. But
Yeah.
I know how it works. I know the principles. And I would
Yeah.
say that, like, one thing that I love talking to entrepreneurs about, because I'm not that great at business, but I'm learning about it, right? I'm like, listen, when it comes to business, what if I told you, hey, listen, if you want to make more money, if you want to grow your business, you got to post on social media all the time. Like, you got to post on Facebook, you got to post on Instagram, you got to post on Twitter. What would you say to that business advice? They're like, well, that's what business is really about, is having a product or service that solves a problem for people and it's effective. Then you need a you need a way to get leads, and then you got a sales process. And that's really what business is about. Whether you post on social media or not, that's like a secondary principle. It's not a first principle. And calories, how much protein you're eating, are you lifting weights, how much activity do you get in a day, are you choosing foods that you feel like you can stick with, right? Those are all first principles. And so that's what I would say, to focus on and to look for yourself.
100%. That's a great point there. I think focusing on the macro and not the micro is kind of a big shift that I think people need to make, because a lot of people say, "Oh, what supplement should I be taking, man?" Or,
Ooh.
should I have brown rice or should I have white rice, right? Like all these very small micro things, right? And the truth is, if you're not tracking your calories or you're not, tracking your workouts, you don't know how much protein you're eating, the color of your rice doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't do fuck all, to be honest. It's all about focusing on these things that really move the needle. And I always call them the high return tasks, right? Or your non-negotiables, things such as your sleep, how many hours sleep are you getting, what is your calorie intake looking like, how many days have you worked out, and are you progressing from last week? Key things like that to look at. They're applicable to everybody, right? And how you choose to fit that into your schedule will then be more personalized to you, your preference, what time the kids have got dinner, all this kind of stuff, right? But it's about focusing on those key principles, which I know you're a big proponent of.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just about that. I'm curious though, how do you deal with it when someone asks you, Oliver, what are your thoughts on green smoothies?
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of green smoothies, so I just tell them they're a waste of time, just have fruit. Yeah.
Right. For sure. Yeah, I guess that wasn't the best example of my choice, but like I'm like, well, what do you think about it? Right?
Yeah.
What do you know about nutrition? What do you think about it? Why do you keep asking people about things?
Yeah,
Right?
for
Like, what do you
sure.
think about it? Of course, your answer's awesome, and yeah, have fruit. But the reality is, and you and I know we're on the same page. I don't even have to ask. But like, if you love green smoothies, you
Have
can
it,
fit
right?
in it into the calories.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I think as well, including whatever you like into your diet is one of the big things that I'm a proponent of. But I think an issue for people is portion control, sustenance, and that kind of thing, right? And I know for a lot of the guys that I work with that are very busy, that have high amounts of stress, that emotional eating could be quite a big thing for them. So kind of what would your advice be to people when it comes to fitting in some stuff that's maybe not so healthy, but that they enjoy, while still trying to stay on track?
Yeah. Um, so two-part answer. The first part, the superficial part is, well, yeah, we can fit that in. Test it, see how it goes for you. And also we focus on hunger. I'm a big fan of the satiety index, the study that was
Me
done
too.
in, I think
I
in
love it.
right? It's
Yeah.
like, go look at that and understand that the best performing food is a potato, a boiled
White potato.
potato,
Yeah.
white potato, right? And then the worst performing is a croissant. Does that mean that you should always eat potatoes and never eat croissants? No, it means what I love about coaching, and I'm sure I know you're the same way here, is like it's not, it's like, here are the rules. Go put them, go experiment with them. Go see, so you kind of know, my clients end up figuring out, okay, well, if I have a croissant for breakfast, that's probably not the right thing to do because I'm going to struggle with hunger. But if I have some eggs, which perform decently with satiety, and I have some potatoes with that, and I choose to have half of a croissant or even a whole croissant, I can do that. So, so I tell them how to fit it in. I tell them to focus on the hunger because, again, I got one client, for example, he's been fitting in a handful of M&Ms. He's got a huge big bag of M&Ms in the freezer. I couldn't do this, by the way. I would eat the entire bag,
Same.
right?
Yeah.
But he's like amazing, right? He's a high performing guy, obviously, and he can have the handful of M&Ms. So he's been doing that, and he's lost more weight than he ever has. And he's only been with me a few weeks because of focusing on these principles. Now, to get to the deeper level, what you said, the stress eating, you really gotta, there's two things here, right? When people have that problem, for me, in my experience, they're spending too much time. Your brain has two modes of focusing. I'm sorry, two ways of operating. There's the focus mode and then the flow mode. The focus mode is where a lot of high performers, oh, I got to work, I got to finish this, oh, I got to work, because if they work, the idea is, if I spend more units of time on work, then I get more done, and that leads to more units of currency in my bank account, or whatever their metric is, growing the company, et cetera, et cetera. But the reality is, you can get to a point of diminishing returns if you spend too much time in that focus mode. You've got to get into flow. It's called diffuse mode, but I think flow sounds cooler, you know?
Yeah.
So you got to get into the flow mode. You've got to take breaks. And what I tell people is, look, taking breaks isn't separate from your job, separate from your work, is part of your work. And that helps a lot of people, because I had one guy, he's like, oh, you know what I realized working with you, Ted? I deserve a break. I'm like, no, you don't deserve a break. It's your fucking job to take a break.
Yeah.
It's your job.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, I have a good relationship with him. I don't talk to all my clients like that, obviously. You know,
For
I had a
sure.
good relationship with him, and I said that. He's like, yeah, man, you know what? You're right. And so we got to find those things that we're missing in our life. And so if you have a lot of purpose around work, that's awesome. And which a lot of high performers do. It what allows us to perform at a high level, right? That commitment, that mission. But if that's all we have, you got to look at, well, am I in a relationship right now? And what's the health of that relationship? Do I have hobbies outside of work? Do I have friends outside of work? And so when it comes up, I help my clients with that too, if they want. You know, but that's what I would say. Go a bit deeper, because that will help improve your overall life. So you won't have to struggle with stress eating as much. You'll be less stressed because you'll be doing what you really need to be doing.
Yeah, for sure, man. You touched on some excellent points there. I think the first one, work while you're working, rest while you're resting, right? I think, you know, you should schedule both, and both of it are important for you. And, you know, especially as a high performer, if you're listening to this, you're an exec, you're a CEO, you need to recover, man. You need to sleep. You need, you know, that week off sometimes, right? To just get away from everything. And actually that's going to kind of rewire your brain a little bit to think a lot clearer, get out of kind of the tunnel vision that you have, and look at things a lot sort of from a wider perspective, which I think is really important. You touched on another good point there as well, around kind of the emotional eating linked to like lifestyle. And I think that's really important, because I found, personally throughout lockdowns and stuff, when, a lot of that's taken away, potentially kind of going out, your relationships, your social part of life, and all of these other bits that are very important to you, you find that emotional eating can creep up a lot more because you're just stuck at home working, right? And it's very repetitive and it's the same thing. But when you have those other things available to you, it's much easier to say, okay, cool, I'm not going to emotionally eat today. I'm going out with my buddies later, or I'm going to play golf or something like that. It makes you're excited for life, right? You've got this enthusiasm. And I try and educate my clients on that as well. It's kind of, don't just focus on the food, like focus on the whole lifestyle, right? When you look at the whole lifestyle, when your relationships are good, you're looking, towards being a better version of yourself at work, and all of these factors to tick boxes, emotional eating is much less of an occurrence, I find, right? Like it's much less of a problem. But it seems to be when other stresses from key relationships or the environment, they cause you to kind of emotionally eat. I don't know if that's something you can relate to.
Yeah, 100%. And you said something really important. You said that the tunnel vision happens. That's
Yeah.
what stress does for us. It just it gives us tunnel vision. And that's why we make short-term decisions like, oh, I'm going to stress eat, because who cares about the fact that my weight's going to be up tomorrow because I ate,
Yeah.
1,000 calories of cake and cookies and ice cream. All I know is right now how I feel.
Yeah.
And if that's a common occurrence, that just means your stress levels are high. And that could be from, like you said, relationships and other things. It could be self-induced as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, I watch the news, the coronavirus numbers, and then I go to work, and then I've got all these problems putting out fires at work. And then, yeah, you gotta really rein it in. And right, how you get out of the tunnel vision is by finding, like you said, scheduling things that reduce stress. I mean, this is not just part of the game, it's the game, right? Is managing that balance, because if it manages you, you're probably going to be, again, most people, high performers, they tend to be in that, like, no, I can't take time, I don't have time, I got to work. It's like, no, you don't have time not to take time off, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're thinking about this wrong. And unfortunately, for whatever it is, human beings just seem to need someone else to give them the perspective to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%, man. I agree with all those
I
points.
worked with a coach, by the way. When I got my body transformation,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I worked with it. I hired a coach. Now I was in Thailand. I had a very different food environment. I'm from Miami Beach, Florida. I was in Thailand. I was eating out most of my meals, so I needed help, because like I could track things easily at home in America, but I was eating like pad Thai, and I wasn't. Oh, man, I was in Thailand. You've done this Southeast Asia
Yeah.
thing too, right? I don't know when I'm gonna go back, and thankfully I did everything I did, because now we're in this situation with the travel restrictions. So I was enjoying myself, but I needed help to get lean in the process of traveling. So I ended up hiring a coach, man, and it really it changed everything for me. Changed my coaching actually as well. My experience with him, he was amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I think that's one of the benefits of getting a coach as a coach, because a lot of coaches probably think, oh, I'm a coach myself, I don't need anybody to tell me what to do, right? They get a bit high and mighty, right? But I have coaches in different areas of my life, man, and it helps so much, because you don't know everything, right? Some
Of
people know.
course you do. You're 26 and you're killing it. I'm 44. Just figured this thing out a couple years ago, man.
Yeah,
You're killing
exactly.
it. It's amazing. Yeah, I think you're a great example of what can be done when you do the right things. You don't have to you don't have to wait till your 40s to get your stuff together. You can really do this faster, but you've got to shorten the process, you've got to work with the right people.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
100% agree with that. No, appreciate that, man. So I thought we'd move on now to some fat loss myths, man, because they're a huge thing that I get with clients, right? So what are some of the funniest and most outrageous fat loss myths that you've come across? I think we should talk about these.
Oh, yeah, just what's like insulin. You can't lose fat unless your insulin's low,
Oh God,
right?
here
Like
we
that
go.
doesn't make any sense even. I don't know where I mean, I know where it comes from. By the way, I didn't say this. I used to be a low carb zealot back in the
Sure.
day. And I ended up transitioning away from that because I got fat because I was putting butter on everything and coconut oil in my coffee, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
story, and I was paleo. I've been in this business 23 years. I was paleo before there was even a term for it. I was talking about the chemicals before everybody. And so now I feel like the karma is coming back around. I got to listen to people say the stuff we were saying 20 years ago. So yeah, the insulin needs to be low to have fat loss. So you need to cut carbs to lower your insulin. Endocrine disrupting chemicals. Look, I care about that stuff, but it ain't stopping you from losing fat. It's the fact, like, you don't know if are you eating 2,000 calories a day or are you eating 5,000? You have no idea. And that's the problem, right? And people aren't moving enough. So another fat loss myth would be, yeah, doing cardio to lose weight. Yeah, you'll lose weight faster. From the research that I've seen, at least, you lose weight faster with cardio, but 25% or so of that is muscle mass. So that's the
Muscle, yeah.
opposite. If you want to actually lose body fat, that would be a bit. It's not quite a myth. It's more of like misinformation
Yeah.
that you want to
Yeah.
focus. What most people want isn't weight loss. It's body fat loss and
It's body composition, right? That's the key
body
thing.
composition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I touch on this in my ebook because a lot of the mainstream narrative, especially when you come to set goals, right? People are like, I'm overweight, I want to lose weight, right? Which is makes sense, right? You're overweight, you got too much weight on you, you want to lose it, but it's kind of the wrong way to look at it. Like, there's a better path to doing it, right? And when you look at something like, I don't know, body composition, where you're looking to train to gain muscle or train to build muscle or maintain the muscle you have and lose body fat, right? This is the key. And this is why, weight training combined with a calorie controlled diet, high protein diet, and then adding in cardio as an additional tool to help you burn some fat or, to help with recovery or, just do it for pleasure, is kind of using all of these tools in the best way, because then you're building the muscle, you're getting stronger, that makes you feel good, optimizes your testosterone, right? All this good shit makes you feel strong. And then, yeah, you got your diet dialed in, so you don't have to do hours and hours on the treadmill, because people spend their life on the treadmill and you can't outrun your fork, man. I say this to clients all the time, you can't outrun your fork. You need to get that diet dialed in, man, and then you're going to be like, shit, I don't have to actually even do any cardio if I don't want to. I can just eat good and I can lose fat, and that's like the best of both worlds.
Yeah, let's talk about that one. That one's a great one. So listen, I'm in Brazil right now. You may or may not know, for those listening, how the culture is, the exercise culture in Brazil is. If you think there's a lot of pressure on women to look hot in the UK or America, it's multiply that by at least 10 here.
Oh
And
shit.
so I was in the morning, in the gym the other morning, and I was in a HIIT class. I walked into the cardio room because that's where it has the rack where I do a lot of my stuff. And there was an HIIT class going on, and these women were crushing it on the treadmill, running intervals. I mean, just like I couldn't. I mean, I'm in good shape. I do martial arts and stuff, Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, but I don't think I could do the class. But I'm leaner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you see people who are crushing it with exercise is such a common thing. I know you see it all the time too. You just, the shortcut that you're looking for is learning about nutrition, learning about what Oliver and I have been talking about. If you don't know your total calories, it seems like, no, but I don't want to track. Listen, I was the same way. When I first started tracking, for 3 days, I was like, fuck this. This is stupid. Oh my gosh. It didn't take me long to do, but I just had so much resistance. But it
Yeah.
was the biggest game changer ever, because now I don't have to. I mean, I work out hard, but people think I work out so hard. I don't work out like these women the other morning, or a lot of my clients. I had a guy, he didn't end up signing up with me, unfortunately for him, but he's a business owner, stressed, blood sugar is going up, cholesterol is going up over the years, weight's going up over the years. And he's like, I work out harder than all my friends. I don't know what's going on. And I'm like, yeah, you can't, now here's the thing, you can technically out train your diet, but unless you're a professional athlete who works out 6 hours a day and that's your job, ain't going to happen for you. If you're a desk athlete, right? It's not something that you're going to be able to do. You've got to make that shift and start to learn about your nutrition. It sounds like such a pain in the ass to do, but it is the magic bullet that you're looking for fat loss.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with that. Calorie tracking, it will just, like you said, there is that resistance, isn't there? Especially within the mainstream of tracking calories and getting that food scale out.
Disordered.
It's disorder. You're like, oh, I've got to weigh this. Oh, that's so boring. Yeah. And it's kind of like, okay, the first couple of weeks, man, you're right. It is a bit mundane, maybe the first few months. And it takes you a while to get used to. But after this period, you hit this kind of peak where you're like, me now, I've tracked macros for 5-10 years. It's kind of like I just look at a bit of food and I'm like, cool, that's roughly 500-600 calories, man. There's about 60 grams of protein in that. I'll double check on my fitness pal, but I'm pretty cool with that, right? Like I know that. And then I'm like, okay, cool, that's how many calories I've got left for the day, or roughly I can eat this. And I can just make these smart choices now intuitively, because I've tracked calories for so long. And what it does is it educates you on foods, right? And it educates you on what's inside them. And it helps you make more intuitive choices. And it also lets you fit in foods that you love, man. And this is a big thing that people miss. It's kind of like, if I've got 700 calories left for the day, if I want to fit a small pizza into that, man, I can do it and I can still lose fat. And there's no problem with that. There's no issue, right? And I think that for people that want to lose weight and they're on a strict diet, that's like fucking eye-opening, man. That's completely insane.
Yeah. I always put up when I eat the pizza and stuff, I'm like, I'm getting leaner every week and I'm eating gelato, not, a scoop. I have a
Yeah.
personal pizza
Yeah.
and people, if you're listening to this and you believe that you need to be so strict with your diet, it is not the way to go. Even if you get the results, you can't stick with it, because food is one of the ways we get pleasure. I mean, one of the things that I have my clients do is I tell them not to be the nutrition weirdo.
Yeah.
Who is that? That's the person who, it's a family gathering and you're bring your Tupperware because you gotta eat clean,
Yeah.
right? And part of health is connecting with other people. It's an underappreciated part of health. And I know you know this because you know your stuff, right? Loneliness, social isolation leads to higher levels of inflammation. It's not just the anti-inflammatory foods that people are trying to sell you on, right? It's the social connections. And if you want to have an overall healthier life, this can help change your relationship with yourself, help change your relationship with food, and also help change your relationship with other people.
Yeah. 100%. I completely resonate with those. That was well put. Great. Awesome, Ted. So I wanted to move on to now, back to where you spoke about kind of training Hollywood stars, because that's super cool, man. Like Robert Downey Jr., man. So talk me through that story very briefly. How did you meet with him and how did that happen?
Yeah, I was training a well-known real estate developer in Miami Beach. You wouldn't know him, but Craig Robbins is his name. He is very well known in Miami Beach, and he's connected with all these celebrities because his interest in art and everything, and other reasons. I don't know him that well. Just trained him for a bunch of years, but I ended up meeting Robert through him. And he was like, hey, Robert's here for the weekend. He said something kind of strange, like, oh, yeah, Robert's here for the weekend. Do you have time to fit him in? I'm like, Robert Downey Jr.? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I think I can make that happen,
Yeah.
And he was saying it in a joking way. He was trying to be cool, but it's like, come on, man, like people are wealthy, but Robert is a star. And this was before his Ironman fame. This was like as he was getting ready to do Ironman. So here's a cool story. We got along well. He had just started doing Wing Chun, and I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. And I've done my share of competitions, ended up getting my brown belt, probably will never get my black belt. Another story, a story for another time. But, he was like showing me some Wing Chun, like he just started messing around, right, with me. I didn't do anything. I'm like, all right, Robert. What I did, I ankle picked him, which is a takedown. I just very gently, just put him on his ass in 10 seconds. We had a good laugh about it. Certainly doesn't look as good on the big screen in Sherlock Holmes, and right when he's Tony Stark doing all the Wing Chun stuff. Looks super cool, but yeah, I put him on his butt with
that's crazy. So you're one of the one of the very few men to put Iron Man on his ass, man. That's a good title to have, man.
I like that. Oliver. It's very clever, man. Yeah. Yeah, we had a good relationship. Trained him every time he came down to Miami. And yeah, he asked me to come hang out with him in LA even. And as soon as he said that, I was just at the time, I'm doing well now. I'm doing well in a lot of ways. Emotionally, I've never been healthier. Financially, I've never been healthier. Arguably the best health I've ever been in, physically as well. Although I got my share of injuries, but back then I was really struggling. And as soon as he asked me to do that, just all my like, you're not worthy voice came up, and I never took him up on it. And that was a big lesson for me. Like, you want to be ready for when things like that happen to you. What would have happened if I would have went to LA and met him and met his friends and started training people? Because the truth is, I was a great trainer, but I'm way better now with the nutrition and everything. But a lot of what those people look for, because people have always asked me, how do you end up training all these people? And they don't really know who's the best trainer or not. A lot of it has to do with, do I feel good during the workout? Do I feel like this is good? And also, who is this person as a person? Are they going to sell my info to TMZ to make $1,000 real quick, or whatever TMZ will pay? Or is this person, do they have integrity, and can I trust them? But the thing about being ready for opportunities, I just wasn't ready for him to spring something like that on me. And had I been working on the different aspects of my life, and this could happen to anybody. You may be running a $10 million business, or maybe even $100 million business, but a billionaire comes and wants to do something with you, and you don't feel that you're worthy. So really, the lesson that I took away from that is like, you've got to work on all those aspects of your life, and anything that can put you operating at a high level, not just at work and making money. That's important, of course, but operating at a high level emotionally. Like, what would it, not only physically, but don't just have a financial six-pack, don't just have a physical six-pack, but make sure you have a emotional six-pack as well, whatever that would look like for you.
Yeah, I love that, man. Have a life six-pack, right? I think that's the one.
A life six-pack.
A life six-pack,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I completely resonate with that. I even say to my clients, it's, even when you train and you develop your body, the difference that will make when you turn up at a presentation, right? When you go to give a speech, just the posture, right? This subconscious feeling you have about yourself is going to massively influence everything, right? From the people that you're going to date, right? From potentially the money that you can make and the promotions you can get, how you come off to other people. So that's why I love fitness, because it is like the gateway drug to self-improvement, right? And once you start nailing this, you have control of your body, you find that you have control over the rest of your life, and that's the best feeling in the world, right? Like you said, the journey that you've gone through, going and becoming, emotionally stable, healthy, physically stable, financially stable, just crushing it in every area of your life. you now, if Robert Downey Jr. offered you that again, I'm sure you'd take him up on that offer, man.
Yeah, sure. I'll go hang out. I feel like I can. One mistake I made, and I think a lot of people do this regardless of their level of financial success. Back when I was in Miami, I had the BMW, had my X6, I had all these expensive clothes, the $300 jeans, the $200
Yeah.
shirts, because I wanted respect from people. I wanted more clients. I wanted better relationships with women. But that money would have been better served hiring a coach, hiring a
Sure.
therapist, traveling the world, not staying in the 5-star Four Seasons, but actually getting out there and experiencing the culture like you and I have. Those are the things that make you a more interesting person. Yeah, style is amazing, but it's really about the person underneath the clothes. It's really
Yeah.
about the person in the Ferrari or BMW or whatever you're driving. It's really about the person who's wearing the Hublot watch, right? It's who
Yeah.
is that person. And I find at least in America, I talk to these people sometimes who don't end up hiring me. I'm like, what type of car do you drive? I don't ask, but I know these people are wearing a $5,000 Rolex or $10,000 Hublot or whatever. And then I drop my price and they're like, oh man, that's too expensive. It's like, really? Like that watch is worth that, but investing in yourself isn't. And I would say if you aren't willing to do that, because all coaches basically charge, all coaches who get results like we do, we all charge very similar prices. It's
Yeah.
just the cost of it. You're not going to find a bargain Ferrari, right? Actually, you might if it's super old and one of the ones that depreciated, perhaps like a Testarossa maybe, but like if you want the best, you gotta invest in it. And it's
Yeah.
something that again, it's not a price, it's not a cost, it's an investment. Just investing in yourself, especially if you're a person who's made that, I don't want to call it a mistake because I like nice stuff too, but if you are too imbalanced with the material stuff, you're kind of missing it. Invest in yourself as a person. That gives you the biggest ROI.
Yeah, 100%. I absolutely love that, Ted. So I think that's a fantastic place to round off. So before we do, Ted, where can everyone find you, man? Where can they connect with you? Plug your coaching, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the best place to go is legendarylifepodcast.com and just sign up to the list. By this time, we may be opening up coaching again, but I've got a ton of information, especially if you're really interested in the fat loss game. Go to legendarylifepodcast.com and listen to my episode 445, and that will follow the information in it. It's called The Absolute Best Diet for Weight Loss, which is just a marketing title. It's really about fat loss, but that's how people search for it. So episode 445 at legendarylifepodcast.com. Follow what's in there. And then if you get results with that, definitely reach out to me for coaching. My email is on the website as well, my contact info. So legendarylifepodcast.com.
Epic. Well, Ted, today has been fantastic, man. It's been great to connect with you. And I hope one day we can connect in real life, dude, and go to the gym, go to the beach, hang out. That'd be some cool shit.
Yeah, get out of the UK.
I'm gonna have to, man. I'm gonna have to book a flight to Brazil now,
Get
man.
out of the lockdown. Yeah, who knows? I'm totally up for that. I love connecting with people, especially in this, let's do it.
Yeah, great, man. Well, thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate you listening today. If you did enjoy it, please give it a 5-star rating, and I'll speak to you soon.